सर लोग को यहाँ आगे बिठा लीजिए। हाँ। मनोजगर्वमोचनं विशाललोललोचनं विधूतगोपशोचनं नमामि पद्मलोचनम् करारविन्दभूधरं स्मितावलोकसुन्दरं महेन्द्रमानदारणं नमामि कृष्णवारणम् कदम्बसूनकुण्डलं सुचारुगण्डमण्डलं व्रजाङ्गनैकवल्लभं नमामि कृष्णदुर्लभम् यशोदया समोदया सगोपया सनन्दया युतं सुखैकदायकं नमामि गोपनायकम् सदैव पादपङ्कजं मदीयमानसे निजं दधानमुत्तमालकं नमामि नन्दबालकम् समस्तदोषशोषणं समस्तलोकपोषणं समस्तगोपमानसं नमामि नन्दलालसम् भुवो भरावतारकं भवाब्दिकर्णधारकं यशोमतीकिशोरकं नमामि चित्तचोरकम् दिगन्तकान्तभङ्गिनं सदा सदालसङ्गिनं दिने दिने नवं नवं नमामि नन्दसम्भवं नमामि नन्दसम्भवं नमामि नन्दसम्भवम्. Thank you so much to all the dignitaries. For the rendition of Kulgeet, I invite Miss Neha and Kajol now. Please come.
मधुर मनोहर अतीव सुंदर ये सर्व विद्या की राजधानी राजधानी मधुर मनोहर अतीव सुंदर ये सर्व विद्या की राजधानी राजधानी ये तीनों लोकों से न्यारी काशी सुज्ञान धर्म और सत्य राशि बसी है गंगा के रम्य तट पर ये सर्व विद्या की राजधानी राजधानी नए नहीं है ये ईट पत्थर है विश्वकर्मा का कार्य सुंदर रचे है वेदा के भव्य मंदिर ये सर्व सृष्टि की राजधानी राजधानी यहाँ की है ये पवित्र शिक्षा कि सत्य पहले पहलू पर रक्षा बिके हरिश्चंद्र थे यहीं पर ये सत्य शिक्षा की राजधानी राजधानी बवेदेश्वर की सत्यवाणी बने जिन्हें पढ़ के ब्रह्म ज्ञानी थे व्यास जी ने रचे यहीं पर ये ब्रह्म विद्या की राजधानी राजधानी वो मुक्ति पद को ले लाने वाली सुधर्म पथ पर चलाने वाले यही भरे भोले बुद्ध शंकर ये राज ऋषियों की राजधानी राजधानी सुरम्य धाराएं वरुणा से नहाए जिनमें कबीर तुलसी, भला हो कविता का क्यों न आकर ये वाग विद्या की राजधानी, राजधानी। विविध कला अर्थ शास्त्र गायन, गणित खनिज औषधि रसायन, प्रतीचि प्राची का मेल सुंदर, ये विश्वविद्या की राजधानी, राजधानी। ये मालवीय जी की देशभक्ति, ये उनका साहस, ये उनकी शक्ति, ये मालवीय जी की देशभक्ति, ये उनका साहस, ये उनकी शक्ति, प्रकट हुए हैं नवीन होकर ये कर्मवीरों की राजधानी, राजधानी। मधुर मनोहर अतीव सुंदर ये सर्व विद्या की राजधानी, राजधानी। मधुर मनोहर अतीव सुंदर ये सर्व विद्या की राजधानी, राजधानी।
Thank you, Sneha and Kajol. After this beautiful rendition of our Kulgeet, I request Sir Professor Anand Mishra, the head of the Department of Philosophy and Religion, BHU, and other senior faculty members of our department to felicitate our respected dignitaries on the dais with shawl and garland. So, Akanksha, Aradhana, and Shantika, please come forward to assist, sir. Professor S.C. Pandey, sir, please come and felicitate our guests with head, sir. I request Professor S.C. Dubey, sir, as well to come forward. Professor P.K. Mukhopadhyay, you are welcome, sir. Professor Danial Raveh, Professor Sachidanand Mishra, sir. We have with us Professor Raveh as a special guest, and he received his recently published book for the very first time yesterday itself in the very department. So we just want to take a moment or two to launch the edited book of Professor Daniel Raveh. I request to all the honorable dignitaries on the dais to kindly come forward to inaugurate the book of Professor Daniel Raveh. This is just a single copy, and sir received this copy yesterday. Professor Daniel Raveh has edited and published this book along with his student friend Elise, entitled The Making of Contemporary Indian Philosophy, Krishna Chandra Bhattacharya, published by Routledge Publication under Routledge Hindu Studies Series. Congratulations, sir. and best wishes. Yep.
I just wanted to add, it is not my book. I'm just the co-editor. We have an ensemble of scholars who wrote on K.C. Bhattacharya.
It's edited one. Thank you, sir. I request you all to simultaneously inaugurate the souvenir of the seminar as well. Rahul sir, come. Rahul sir, please come. Thank you very much to all of you. Now I request the head of the department and also the coordinator of the seminar, Sir Professor Ananda Mishra, to welcome all the dignitaries and participants in the seminar and say a few words about the seminar. Please come.
Hari Om. Honorable Chairperson Professor Sachidanand Mishra ji, Keynote Speaker Professor P.K. Mukhopadhyay sir, Guest of Honor Professor Danial Raveh ji, eminent scholars, colleagues, students and scholars connected to the seminar, offline or online. I welcome you all on behalf of the Department of Philosophy and Religion, Manas Hindu University, in this 3-day national seminar on the post-independence Advaita thinkers. Friends, how to interpret contemporary Indian philosophy is a very debatable issue. For us, TMP Mahadevan and Saroja edited a volume on contemporary Indian philosophy. In that volume, 8 contemporary scholars have been included, and Mahadevan in his introduction writes that Advaita is the thread which connects these 8 philosophers. The 8 philosophers who were included in that series were Tilak, Gandhi, then Tagore, Raman Maharshi, Radha Krishnan, then other few more, Aurobindo, Vivekanand. So these 8 thinkers were included. All these thinkers were pre-independence thinkers, barring one can say a little bit Radha Krishnan. Then George Birch, he wrote Contemporary Vedanta Philosophy. There he talks about again 8 contemporary thinkers, beginning from K.C. Bhattacharya, Kalidas Bhattacharya, T.R.B. Murthy, G.R. Malkani, Ras Bihari Das, D.M. Datta, Rana Day, and Prabhas P.V. Chaudhary. He again finds that Vedanta is the link, or Advaita is the link which connects the different Indian thinkers. So the major task of today's seminar is what is the connecting thread. The Purpaksh is present here. Professor Mukhopadhyay, I think Professor Sajdanand Mishra, a few days back, Danial delivered a lecture. So there are a number of scholars like Daya Krishna, Jain Mohanty, B.K. Matilal, Ganei, or P.K. Mukhopadhyay, or Danial. All these scholars are of the view that it is the rationality, it is the reason or logic that characterizes contemporary Indian philosophy, or that has been characterizing the Indian philosophy. So that is the Purpaksh. Another Paksh is that it is the spirituality or Vedanta or Advaita that characterizes the contemporary thinking, and that is still characterizing. If we look into the philosophy of Banaras University, a BHE School of Philosophy, or the Madras School of Indian Philosophy, or Allahabad School of Indian Philosophy, you would find that it is the Advaita which connects the deep. Still, it is the Advaita which is connecting or which is characterizing the Indian philosophy and philosophers. So I hope this seminar would discuss on all these issues. There has been a long tradition of Advaitic thinkers in this BHU, beginning from Radha Krishnan, T.R.B. Murthy, even A.C. Mukherjee, who was connected with this department, S.K. Maitra, R.S. Mishra, A.K. Chatterjee, Ramakant Tripathi, and Professor Pandey, Professor Kamalakar Mishra. All these scholars were the Advaitin thinkers. The same could be said about the Allahabad, or even as I told you, Professor Godavari Mishra is here, about Madras University, TMP Mahadevan, or even before that, Suryanarayan Sastri, or Godavari Ji, Balasubramaniam. All these were the Advaitin thinkers. So we thought, in fact, it was the plan of Rajneesh Shuklaji to organize a seminar on Professor Revati Raman Pandey, our Guruji. In memory of Professor Pandey, he wanted to organize a seminar. Then Professor Sachidanand Mishra ji, who is presently member secretary of ICPR, and Professor Ambika Das Sharma, they suggested that Professor Pandey was really speaking Advaitin, so why should not we hold a seminar on Advait thinkers or contemporary Advait thinkers? So finally this seminar was planned, and I welcome Professor Sajdanand Mishra. I am thankful to him that due to him this seminar could take place. It was only due to him that we could organize, or we are going to organize this seminar. I also welcome Professor P.K. Mukhopadhyay when I invited him to preside over, to in fact deliver a keynote address. He accepted our invitation. I welcome you, sir, in this department and in the seminar. I also welcome Professor Danial Raveh. This is really a big occasion for us that this book on K.C. Bhattacharya, his book is The Making of Contemporary Indian Philosophy, Krishna Chandra Bhattacharya. In fact, in the coming 3 days, we shall be engaged with what is the philosophy of K.C. Bhattacharya. So no place could have been better for this to launch this book. And this book is actually has been published in 23, and just yesterday Daniel got a copy from London. So we are really fortunate that a department which is fully haunted by K.C. Bhattacharya is still 100 students. In fact, they are studying, or they have to study K.C. Bhattacharya's philosophy. So there could be no place. All the, as I told you, BHU scholars, they were somehow engaged with the K.C. Bhattacharya's philosophy or his legacy. So I am really thankful to Daniel Raveh that he selected this place for launching his book. I welcome you, Daniel Raveh. I also welcome the eminent scholars who are not on the dais. Professor Godavari Mishra, Professor R.C. Pradhan, who have been member secretaries of ICPR earlier on, who are the great scholars, Professor Jata Sankarji, Professor Harishankar Prasad, Professor P.R. Bhatt from IIT Mumbai. So you can, Professor Sanjay Sukla, Professor Ambika Das Sharma, you can imagine there how simplicity that they are, in fact, sitting before the dais just like you. I welcome all these scholars. I also welcome all those scholars who are connected to the seminar online. I welcome all my colleagues, students and scholars who are present. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for throwing the light on the seminar's theme and welcoming all the learned scholars on the dais as well as off the dais and online participants as well. Now I invite Sir Professor P.K. Mukhopadhyay for delivering the keynote speech. Sir, okay, please come, sir. आ सकता है sir. Yes, sir. Professor P.K. Mukhopadhyay.
সদাশিব সমারম্ভান শঙ্করাচার্য মধ্যমা শ্রী গোপীনাথ পাদান্তাং বন্দে গুরু পরম বিশুদ্ধ জ্ঞান দেহায় ত্রিবেণী দিব্যচক্ষুষে শ্রেয় প্রাপ্তি নিমিত্তায় নমস্যমার্থধারিণে শ্রীরাকুশক্রমত প্রণম্য মৌলৌ নিধায় করবারি বিভীষমিয়ে বাণীয়ং বিশৃঙ্খলাপি অর্থরহিতাপি সানুগ্রহেণ হৃদয়েন বিলোকনীয়া। I will begin my talks with a few words which should be treated as off the record. Because of certain contingent reasons and because of very strong personal liking, there has been some miscommunication. Ananda Mishra, your head of the department, is adamant that he will not communicate excepting through WhatsApp. P.K. Mukhopadhyay is adamant he will not use her WhatsApp. So there have been some misconception, and the reason for it we equally share. So I came to know after coming here and after Ananda Mishra spoke that I am to deliver keynote address. These days, and in a particular favor Ananda Mishra has shown to me for many long years, I am used to becoming simply to preside over a session. And to invite one to preside over a session means two things: secure at least one listener throughout the session. He can't leave. And the second goes in favor of the listeners, that he should not be given much time to speak, so the listeners are not to hear a long lectures, most dry and uninteresting. So I am used to that. But coming here and hearing him, I know it's a particular favor that I am to speak, give keynote address. That means I will have some time. But since I am not prepared, I will tell you something which is most unprepared. Normally, I become unprepared. So you'll please forgive me for that. All that I knew about this seminar from one concept note that I got, and I thought that I will speak 2-3 things just on this concept note and nothing else. I will do almost that, maybe here and there some additions to utilize the time. One new thing that I very much like to speak on is the very concept of contemporary Indian philosophy. The word is very frequently used. There are many books also on it. I have seen it. But in those volumes, the writings that are collected makes me more confused. What is contemporary philosophy? Are you not using the word philosophy in a very, very wide, unclear sense? Most of the time I do that. One reason for this is how to define contemporary philosophy. Time itself is neither past, present, or future, contemporary or past. Certain event that characterizes, gives such a rather importance to time that it becomes deviated from the past, present, or future. When did the ancient period stop? When exactly the modern period started? When exactly middle age started? These are all very difficult point to decide. So in the concept note, I have selected 2 things only. One is this seminar is devoted to contemporary thinkers or post-independence thinkers. Contemporary may be taken a little back. Post-independent thinkers in the field of Advaita Vedanta. It is clear concept, and I will have something to speak on it. And the other thing is that this contemporary or post-independent thinking on the Advaita Vedanta, apart from that, the concept note expresses a hope or a, what should I say, conclusion, and that is this: Advaita Vedanta is most dominating in the field of philosophy and also in the field of culture and civilization. These are the 2 main things on which I will speak, adding something more to it. The first thing is very simple, it may appear, and that is this: that in the concept note, names of many Advaita thinkers and who were also during post-independent years active. And it has been said there, the list is not complete. There may be many more others. How to complete it at all? One way is to add more names at random. If that is the case, any one of us can add any number of scholars and teachers of Vedanta all over India. I can immediately name Buddha, Mishra, Ananda, Sharma, and who not. But that leads us nowhere. Just to be a teacher in these institutions or this type of institutions is not enough. One difficulty is this: most of the time, greatest of the pundits are left out, who had been very importantly taught the subject, thought about it, contributed to the development of the subject. They are about to be omitted. If it is for the historical purpose and just for the record purpose, then ICPR, what along this thought in the past, ICPR took a project and more or less successfully advanced the project. There was a project of date-wise, area-wise, subject-wise list of successful PhDs. From there you can get who are the recent thinkers in what subject. But that will also give you a rather short of a list which can suit the purpose of history or government records. Say, for example, there are so many persons who are working in this field for so many years. This will not serve any philosophical purpose. So I was thinking the other way is to first decide upon a criterion according to which we can add names which will actually be useful for philosophical purpose. Using that criterion, and what should be that criterion? This is the first topic that I shall discuss with you. Can there be a very good, rational, relevant criterion or criteria according to which we can select scholars who have contributed to the Advaita thinking in the post-independent years? As the writer of the concept note, anyone who reads the concept note will understand who is the author, because he immediately after giving some incomplete list expresses a hope. Here also, right now he expressed it, that Vedanta is Vedanta is the most dominating system of thought or philosophy, number one, and its dominance is not confined to only academic field, but also in the greater field of culture and civilization. I will, on the second place, I will talk on this, his hope or his decision, whatever it is. To be very brief in the beginning, I have to say that one should not be misled by it. For who, once we read the concept note and heard Ananda Sharma today in the morning, it shows he has a great commitment in the subject. For such a person, it is both possible and excusable to become at least emotional. But in Indian context, we know what is a way not to be persuaded by emotion. We call it orthavad. Every sentence need not be taken in its literal sense, or literally. So, to praise a subject, a person, or whatever it is, we sometimes use expressions to praise it, not to be taken literally. That doesn't mean that it is not true, but at the same time, it is not literally true. So, these are the first two topics on which I should say, and the third topic I will introduce. I am now thinking about introducing, having come to know that I will be delivering the keynote address. This is the preface. And to add to this preface, first, I have no specialization in any subject. So I am not a specialist in Vedanta. Of course, who in India does not read and is not influenced by the Vedanta? Officially speaking, I have been a student of NAN. And I come from Bengal. And Bengal has been the place where Nobunna flourished. And now there are very many great Noyakos took their birth and worked there. But every one of them is a great devotee of Shankaracharya, the great personality in the field of Vedanta. And the concept note also says it is about the Advaita Vedanta that is we are going to see. But when we will end, we will see that there is some point in it that Vedanta is most dominating. Dominant is a very unacceptable word. Of course, in words of praise, I will end by saying, finding a sense in which really Advaita Vedanta today is most dominating. But the reason why it is dominating, the Vedanta that dominates will bring tears to our eyes, what has become of our culture. So begin the first. What could be a good criterion? I take only two. The one is trendsetter in the field of Advaita thinking. One who has just given new direction in which very serious thinking in Advaita Vedanta should take. And let us think about the persons who have recently set trends in the Advaita scholarship, whose name should figure here. I will tell you about the two criterion. The first one is the trendsetter. The second one comes very close to it, founder of new schools of Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta. That also is a very reasonable, rational principle to choose the name of persons who can be said to or who should be included obviously in this list of great scholars in the field of Advaita Vedanta. The first one, criterion, new trendsetter in the field of Advaita Vedanta. I name only one. Maybe there are others. Satchidanandendra Saraswati. Satchidanandendra Saraswati is a unique person. His scholarship is such, I personally feel I have to born 40 times at least and to study with all enthusiasm to come a bit nearer to this person's knowledge of Advaita Vedanta. His name we do not know. It cannot be excused that we do not know, because he is not post-independent scholar. He is. He was born in 1880, but he passed away only in 1975. So he suits the criterion. Even if we consider the name of those scholars who are post-independent, then obviously Satchidanandendra Saraswati is one. And he has no match, I think, both in his project and the way he executed that project. What was the project? And why is he a new trend setter? What new trend he said? He simply set the Vedanta thinking in the opposite direction. Vedanta scholarship proceeded from Shankaracharya to the later days. He simply tried to rather enter tradition which is post-Shankara. He said, go back to Shankara. Reject all that came after Shankara. So he just gave a opposite direction to the Vedanta thinking in modern world. And he did it with such enthusiasm, such scholarship, such devotion, that there is not a second person who can match him, who can be compared with him. So in the list of Vedanta thinkers, in the post-Vedanta thinkers, the most suitable person, according to the most rational criterion, is Satchidanandendra Saraswati. The criterion is who has reversed the Vedanta thinking tradition. What is my understanding of it, that I will now tell you about. But before that, I first say what is the second criterion and who suits this purpose. The second criterion is founded new school of Vedanta. The new school of Vedanta was set in Bengal, and I call it a Bengal school of Advaita Vedanta. It was set, or it is given a tangible form when a book was published in Bengal. It is a book, actually edited book of very famous Vedanta primer, Vedanta Paribhasha of Dharmarajendra Adharendra. In this book, the editor, my revered teacher, Pandit Panchanan Shastri, added a commentary, a tika, known as Vedanta Paribhasha Sangraha. I'll tell you about this. And with this, he founded a new Bengali school. Of course, it started long back, but this book was published. So Vedanta School of Advaita Vedanta, new Vedanta School of Advaita, new Advaita Vedanta School was given tangible form in the form of a book, and the book was published in 1961. So it also suits the criterion post-independence. So let me say a few things about these two trends and the scholars identified. And then I come back to the question of dominance and the influence of Vedanta. Satchidanandendra Saraswati, I told you, given a reverse direction to Advaita Vedanta thinking. But to be, as far as my knowledge goes, the scholars present will correct me if I am wrong, nobody actually did serious work along the line of Satchidananda Saraswati, discarding the post-Shankara Vedanta and going to Shankara. I look at it, I do not agree with this tradition for another reason. I call this tradition is the tradition of going back to Vedanta as Mimamsa. Since Shankaracharya, Vedanta developed not as Mimamsa but as a distinct school of darshan. Not Mimamsa. Mimamsa and darshan, there is a difference, I tell you. So earlier, from the time of Shankaracharya, Vedanta developed more and more as a philosophy, leaving its original mooring in Mimamsa. With Shankaracharya, Vedanta had been in Mimamsa. Same thing about Ramanujacharya also, whose name will have to be thought about. They knowingly did Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, I mean in Shankaracharya's case, knowingly did Vedanta as Mimamsa. How can it be ascertained? Ascertained from just looking at the all available editions of Shankara Bhashya on Brahma Sutra. In all these editions, you will find that it is a Mimamsa, the Mimamsa Bhashya. His book has been given as a Mimamsa Bhashya. You may say that may be a mistake of the editors. Had it been so, one very specific reference I can give. In the Janmadasya Jata Sutra, Bhakya, when Shankaracharya did wrote his Bhashya on this sutra, he explained that there are two ways of understanding this sutra. One option is to look at the sutra and understand it as giving proofs for the existence of God. Ishware Praman. That it is therefore, Shankaracharya would say that it is a Praman has been given. But what Praman? Praman is a Anuman Praman. It roughly means that God is He who created this world, who is the creator of the world, who controls the destruction of it. So He who created this world and destroyed it, He is no other than God. This is the clear meaning of the sutra. From Him, or who has created the world and also is responsible for its destruction. Translated in the language of philosophy, it means here is an inference. Inference from the creation of the world, we can infer the existence of God. Shankaracharya considered it, but he rejected. No. Why not? Giving inference is not the work of Vedanta. That is his rough answer is, giving inference, giving pramana is not the purpose of Vedanta. But darshan is essentially Praman Shastra. But if it is not the purpose of Vedanta and his Bhashya to give Praman, proofs, inferences, then what does it do? The answer is clear. It gives only, it examines Vedartha. Vedartha Vichar or Veda Vakku Vichar is the only purpose of Vedanta. But Vakku Vichar is Mimamsa. Of course, no Vakku Vichar can be done without Bhaktartha Vichar also. But every Vedanta Sutra, according to Shankara's Bhashya, that every particular Sutra reminds us of a number of Shruti Vakyas. So it is said that in every Sutra, a number of Shruti Vakyas have been Vichar. And Shruti Vakya Vichar is the task of Mimamsa. Mimamsa is a system which is developed with a view to examine Vedartha taken as its whole. All the Veda Vakyas taken as a whole, they have to be examined. But for what purpose? The purpose was to find the ultimate import of the whole Vedanta as a whole. And it comes out that Mimamsa is a Shastra, the purpose of which is not to provide Pramana excepting Veda Vakya. So everything that is to be proved is to be given in terms of Veda Vakya and not in terms of independent Pramana. So Mimamsa is this. So there are two Pramanas. One is in all editions, you will see the Bhashya written there in every Uddhaya, it is Mimamsa Bhashya. Same is true about the Sribhashya. In all editions, it is said it is Mimamsa. And the standard difference between Mimamsa and Darshan is that Darshan is a Pramana Shastra and it is a Vedartha Vichara Shastra. Vedartha Vichar means in every sutra, some group of Vedanta Vakyas are examined. But at the time of examination, the only supporting arguments are some other Veda Vakyas and nothing else. So this is the tradition in which from the time of Sutra and Bhashya, Vedanta thinking proceeded. So you will see that in the whole of Vedanta Vakya, Vedanta Sutra, no separate Pramana was there. In the Shankar Bhashya also, not much of it. But later on, including the Vedanta Paribhasa, the later primary work in Vedanta, you will see the book contains what? Vedanta Paribhasa, for example, on which I say, it has some 8 chapters, most probably, yes. The first 6 are first Purmanas, and the last 2 are the fall and Vishaya. This importance of Pramana, you see, the shifting, their Pramanas are not considered at all. And here this Vedanta, as Darshan when it is developed, it was giving full attention to the Pramanas. Though in it also they were following more the Bhattas and not the Nuyayikos, but still it is Pramana Shastra. So we have enough reason to think that Vedanta after Shankar proceeded, or up to Shankar proceeded as a Mimamsa. And thereafter Vedanta proceeded to develop or be developed as a darshan, as a Pramana Shastra also. What Satchidananda Saraswati is saying, that go back to Shankara and not consider about what the development later on. And this development is along the Vivarana Prasthan. After Shankaracharya, the Vedanta developed the major three schools were there, of which the first were Vivarana school and the Bhamati school. This way they developed. I repeat again, I am not a Vedantin, but I have some interest in it only. I am speaking. I have no right to say all these things. They are all Vedantins sitting before me. I am very much afraid if to speak about them, maybe for them. So he says that if you go back to Shankara and reject all the later development, then in my opinion, it is going back to Mimamsa, doing Vedanta as a Mimamsa rather than as a Darshan. Satyadeva Saraswati, a great scholar, he need not have to be told about it, but he has his own reason why it is necessary to go back to Shankara. Because he found that post-Shankara development first was in form of the bhashyos and tikas and sub-tikas on Shankara's work. It began with Panchapadika, then Panchapadika Vivarana and so on. He says all these works misunderstood Shankara. And his scholarship is fantastic. He has written 2 books, I will tell you, of which in one he has devoted Panchapadika and only basing on the Bhashya text, the Upanishad text and Sutra text, he proves that whatever has been said in Vivarana are wrong. At least it never explained Shankara's intention, that it goes as a work on Shankara's Bhashya, but they are all wrong. Shankara's Bhashya was not understood by them. There is a clear statement, there is no hesitation about this. And then he said, because of these people, Padmapadacharya onwards, they have led us astray away from Shankaracharya. So what will remain if all these are rejected, all these are removed? What remains? Shankara Bhashya. And that is a Mimamsa. So in my opinion, this is my, I owe it. My opinion, he has his own reason for this reversal. Because he found that Shankaracharya was not understood properly by Padmapad, etc. But my view that it is going back to Mimamsa for a reason I have already told you. It is a hard decision for us. Should we go with Satchidanandendra? Should it be considered as a rather a reversal? Is it preferable? How to decide? The decision was to be taken by deciding whether we have got any argument for it. But the argument that will be acceptable to Satchidanandendra Saraswati, I mean. There are so many Satchidananda, Ananda, Satchidananda, you know, and all is Vedanta. I think we people are not Ananda. The point is this, he has given, not only exposed the entire tradition of Vivarana, but he has also given us an alternative method. Very beautiful book, very scholarly book, and it has been published in Sanskrit, beautiful Sanskrit, and also it has been translated in English. The name of the book is, what's the name of the book? Huh? No. The Vedanta, it is Vedanta Prakriya Pratyavijna. Vedanta Prakriya Pratyavijna. This is the name. It's available easily. But Yes, it is available. Available. So this is available book. Here there is a scholar who died only in 1975. But what the Advaita Vedanta followers are doing? How many of people, Advaita Vedanta lovers are working on it, studying on it? Of course, Godavari Mishra was there, and he published a book in which I was for the honor of Srinivas Rao. There something was written about this book. And from this, one point was rather given attention to, but not other points. The importance of Satchidananda Mishra's work, so far as I said, that is Mimamsa, going back to Mimamsa, these are not tackled. But other point was noted, that the way Satchidananda Saraswati was moving, that is a disaster to later development of Vedanta, even disaster to the debate, inter-school debate within Vedanta, which is responsible for such a great development. In the inter-school debate in Vedanta is to debate between Advaita Vedanta and Dvaita Vedanta. And Advaita Vedanta, Dvaita Vedanta was debating. Dvaita Vedanta is not only one, but one of the major Dvaita Vedanta is Ramanujacharya's Vedanta, Vishishtadvaita Vedanta. And one of the bone of contention of the quarrel between these two is Saptavidha Anubhavati of Agyan. Agyan is a particular concept, and in a particular sense, it has been admitted by rather Advaita Prasthan. And that the essence of it is this: the Agyan is Bhavarup, a Bhava Padartha, a positive entity. And against this Agyan, in this sense, as admitted by the Advaita Vedantin, Ramanujacharya raised an objection. He said about at least 7 objections are there, devastating arguments are there. If Satchidananda Saraswati is followed and we stop with Shankara, then the development of the concept of Ajnana as a Bhava Padartha, which is a bone of contention between this inter-school debate, falls to the ground. Because there is no Advaita, no Ajnana on which they are quarreling. And with the destruction of it, one great reason for the debate between inter-school debate will go away. And so Advaita Vedanta, Vishishta Advaita Vedanta will also suffer. Therefore, Satchidananda Saraswati could claim, yes, it is a great achievement. All this debate was for no purpose whatsoever. There is nothing to debate on. There is nothing to quarrel on. He could say that. But you know, if that had been so, if the earlier thinkers thought about it so, then Vedanta would not have developed. So this is in short the importance of Satchidananda Mishra. Satchidananda Saraswati, the great scholar. He is a post-independent Advaitin and Advaitin the core. But for me, it is good that scholars did not follow him. If they did, then Vedanta would not have developed. And if still we do, then it will be reversed. I prefer for myself Vedanta Darshan and not Vedanta Mimamsa. So I cannot stop with Shankaracharya. I have to develop. That is my preference. And here the Vedanta scholars are there. I have given my reason, whatever foolish reasons are there. Now I pass on to the second criterion, founding a new school of Vedanta in post-independence time. And that was what I call the Vedanta Paribhara Sangraha, a tika written by Panchan Shastri. And he was also, there is a parampara also, I tell you. What this book has achieved in the prior to the independence for a long time, Vedanta was dominated by scholars in which line there came Ananda Krishna Shastri. Ananda Krishna Shastri was the great Vedantin who dominated almost the whole of India. So far as the Vedanta scholarship is concerned, his books are concerned, it was dominated by him. That he has not only rather challenged the Dvaita Vedanta of Ramanujacharya, he has done Anupabudhi Uddhar, he has written Shatabhushani and many other works. And his one of the greatest work was Advaita Siddhi, the great works. So whoever used to work in Advaita Vedanta, they used to follow this Ananda Krishna Shastri, whether in Bengal or elsewhere. They all did it. In Bengal, however, a change came. A change was introduced by the Paramaguru of Panchan Shastri. Sakshat Guru of Panchan Shastri was Yogendranath Bakshi Shankha Vedanta Tirtha, who has published an incomplete work on Advaita Siddhi, which has been recently translated also in Hindi. No? Yes, some portion is Hindi. Done it? That I don't remember. But most probably it has been in portion of it. Yes. So that maybe I may be wrong also, I don't know. But Advaita Siddhi is also Hindi available. But one portion of that was written, this Yogendranath Bakshi, he wrote a book on Advaita Siddhi with his own tika, Balavadhini. Yes, Balavadhini, yes. That is what I mean. So Balavadhini means that Advaita Siddhi is also there. This Balavadhini is some portion. The Balavadhini itself is an incomplete book. Huh?
Balavadhini is not translated.
Not translated. Most maybe. I don't know. No, not whole of. Balavadhini, the Balavadhini tika is only Pratham Mithattabad, up to Pratham Mithattabad. It was not complete. And in that portion, only one portion of it, in the Advaita, the not only not of covered, not even Adhyasha Lakshana is covered. The Pratham Adhyasha Lakshana Hua. With that, this new school started. But what is the newness of this school? It's in this school, or the works of this school, Ananda Krishna Shastri's interpretation and explanation of Vedanta Paribhasha have been corrected in innumerable places. Now this Guru Parampara again goes up to Lakshan Shastri Dravid. Most probably he is the father of Rajesha Shastri Dravid. Yes. Rajesha Shastri Dravid, the Pandit Raj, his father, Lakshana Shastri Dravid, he for some time had been a teacher of Calcutta University, and Yogendranath Bakshi was his great disciple, and they started a new school. New school, I call it in this way, that it did not follow the Anantakrishna Shastri's explanation in Advaita Siddhi or even in Vedanta Paribhasha. This way, it is a new school. And this all you get very easily in the book Vedanta Paribhasha Sangraha, written in chaste Sanskrit, very beautiful Sanskrit. And I spoke about it on many occasions individually, and also I passed over the book, but nobody, I think, knows even of it. Very few people know it. This is the present state of Advaita scholarship, which Advaita is believed to be dominating. So this school is Vedanta school, a Bengal school, and new school in the sense I just told you. This observation, examination of Ananda Shastri is not found anywhere excepting in Vedanta and Bengal. So these are therefore two persons to suit the two criterion: founding a new school and founding a new trend of thinking. Having said that, let me turn to, I will return to this again, but let me turn to the other point. Dominance of Vedanta. First in the academic field, in the wider socio-cultural field. Is Vedanta dominating the academic field? Is Vedanta dominating the socio-cultural field? My answer is no. Why not? It is partially no and partially yes. Vedanta is not dominating the cultural field, and Vedanta is dominating cultural field. What does it mean? It means there are two Vedantas now going on. One Vedanta is a traditional, scholarly, conservative Vedanta that we know. In the academic field, it is definitely not dominating the wider society and civilization. But very people know this Vedanta. Even the Vedanta scholars don't know Vedanta. It is not dominating us. How could we forget these things, the event I just described you? If it dominated it, the scholarly people, then we should all know at least these two. Many other things are there also I can give. Where is that domination? If the domination means that there is no development in other fields of Indian philosophy, that also is not true. But it is true that Sankhya and Vedanta Danial is doing works on Sankhya is almost forgotten, excepting in the university syllabus. These books are not studied at all. Yoga has some rather acceptance. Yoga is being talked about, but not Sankhya. I think till the other day, I am outdated now, till the other day I know that even a very correct edition of Jukti Deepika was not available in Sankhya. All the editions available were deficient, needed corrections. So it will be too much to claim that one single philosophy has dominated. But it is true that only to name two philosophies that were really, in some sense, dominating scholarly world, maybe Nyaya and Vedanta. Sankhya was very little studied, think about this Varanasi itself. How many Sankhya thinkers were there? Immediately preceding independence or post-independence. But Nyaya was there. The reason was why Nyaya was equally there, and importantly, one reason was there that Nyaya was believed, it has been written in the Nyaya tradition, Pradeepa Sarva Shastrana. The Vedantins studiously followed it. They also follow it that knowledge of Nyaya is essential for the understanding of Vedanta, at least the Vedanta in the Sankara, post-Sankara Vedanta. All the Vedantins, practicing Vedantins, they all believe it. So therefore, partially because of their help and need, and because of the other reasons also, in its own right, Nyaya survived. There was Subramanian Shastri, there was Rajesh Shastri in Varanasi, and Rajesh Shastri was Rajadiraj, Punit Raj, and he worked in many fields. But also, he is known as a great Nayayika, no doubt about it. So for these two reasons, and in Bengal, number of good Vedantis flourished in the period under consideration, and that we have also said that Jogendranath Bakshi is a Vedantin. He was there. But also Nyaya was also flourishing. Many other things, many arguments can be given, but I just stop short of it. I decided in one way, and that is this. Is there any such important recent debates between Vedanti and Nayayika to substantiate that which prevails over which? I will point out to one such debate. I do not know. Advaitins should have relished it. The Jogendranath Bakshi, who I told you was the disciple of Lakshman Shastri Dravid and was actually the founder of the new Bengali school of Vedanta, he has said something which created a debate. Ananda should take note of it. He said, Nyaya is not a darshan, and Vedanta is a darshan. That is what he said. And give an argument, I will give this argument. I at least don't accept it. His view, I am a small fry. His argument was there. A darshan shastra is one which is devoted to moksha. Darshan shastra is essentially moksha shastra. Darshan is a way of knowledge that will lead to moksha. That is acceptable in all Indian philosophers. I mean, at least asking of philosophers. So, his proof is this. He used the Mimamsa proof. The Mimamsa proof of deciding the import of Tatparjatva of any text is the Tatparjatva Nirnayak Shadlinga, of which the first two are Upakram, Upasanghar. He said that in the Upakram of Nyaya Sutra, there is the talk of moksha. Jnanad Nishra Sadhi Bhama Nishra. That is moksha. But look at the Upasanghar Sutra. Upasanghar Sutra is Metta Bhasha Datakta. Hitta Bhasha Datakta. It is about Hitta Bhash and Nigrasthan. So even if we say The Nyaya is a Moksha Shastra considering the Upokrama bit. Upasanga rejects it, cancels it. That is the argument. And then he said, Vedanta, however, is Moksha Shastra. I asked my Param Guru, Jagannath Bhakti, yes, the case is just the same. In the Vedanta Sutra, it ends with Anavritti Shabdat, which roughly means it is speaking about moksha. Anavritti, asamsara, anavritti. But what about the upakram? Atharo brahma jignasa. How can it be in moksha? Brahma vichar. That has been said. So if there is mismatch in upakram bhusanga, in that, source is in Vedanta. Did you not know it? He definitely, he was a great scholar. This sort of man he knew. But it is zeal for Vedanta. That he made him say this thing. It's zeal for Vedanta. They should be much over it. They should not be tied to it. So it's good to have devotion to, loyalty to one's subject, a shastra, but also there should be some wide openness to accept the other evidences also. So this is one example. But the other point which I raised, whether Vedanta is not dominating that way. Of course, Vedanta, and particularly Advaita Vedanta, has no match. And in my opinion, only two are simultaneously are prominent. I should not say this, prominent, definitely, much more studied in the scholarly circle of Advaita Vedanta and in about socio-cultural field, which Vedanta dominates. If we say Advaita Vedanta in the traditional sense of the term, I don't see it. Little truth can be assigned to it if we think of the South. In the South, still Vedanta, Advaita, more Dvaita, I think, is definitely very prominent and dominating in the socio-cultural field, definitely. But what about East, West, or West, India? North, East, West, I do not find this seat. At least from Bengal, I don't know, not even in Vedanta. Here, I feel that much of acceptance and culture of Advaita Vedanta among people all over, of all walks of life. No, I don't see. But definitely one Vedanta which has born in the in the 19th century end, that is dominating the socio-cultural field all over India. And that is a Vedanta, which is soft Vedanta, soft spiritualism, and it is a great taker of all people. And this is the Vedanta which was introduced in the society by a person, a single person, who is not a trained Vedantin at all, not to speak of trained Advaita Vedanta. He is Vivekananda. What goes in these days as unifying all the people, not only Indian but the whole world over, is the Vedanta of Vivekananda. He said Vedanta gives the universal ethics and it can unite all over the world people together. And this is the message of India to the world. What is the message? All are united, everyone is the same, and his argument was simple. that once you believe that all are you, that you cannot be violent to others. For nobody is violent to himself. So this is a very simple argument. But this is all right. But as an argument, it is very, very shallow. As the content is very, very shallow. I call it a popular Vedanta. So it has a great takers. And if you say there is any empirical proof, no empirical proof. If Vivekananda was successful, if he was successful spreading the view of Advaita Vedanta, then there should not have been need for any person to rise against, or there should not be any rise of conflict, violence in the society. But even after Vivekananda, Mahatma Gandhi, we needed Ananda, what Hajra? Hajra, that's the Aam Aadmi Party ka Anna Hajra. We needed Anna Hajra, and even Anna Hajra failed. Every day we are needing one people or other to unite people. So empirical proof is not there. An argument is a blatant failure. What Vivekananda did was, he was confusing what is a project as what is a realized truth. All are one is a project. It is to be realized. We have not realized that we were all. It is Advaita's message. But when the message is that if you work properly, then your end is you will become Atmai Brahma, Aham Brahmasmi. Once you do that, reach that state, all are one, no violence. But what is now? We have to reach there. We have to work for it. So what is to be attained, the goal, we are as if we have already reached it. Such an argument is doing its work by spreading, rather soft spiritualism all over, and we are very much overwhelmed because it asks you do nothing, but you simply say all are one and we are one. This is up to the here I am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for setting the stage for the academic festival, wherein a number of papers are going to be presented on the very theme of post-independence Advaita thinkers, and we hope and believe that the distinguished scholars from all corners of the country will certainly make this seminar a grand success in the expected ways. Meanwhile, sir, we received a comment, or rather say it, a compliment from Professor Rakesh Chandra, who is here with us online. And he's writing that Professor Mukhopadhyay continues to delight and humble us all with incisive observation, scholarship, insights, and energy, astute analysis, determination, and dedication. We are blessed to have him in our presence. Thank you so much, sir. Nothing else is remained to say. So now I request the guest of honor, Professor Danial Raveh, to give his remarks on the theme of the seminar. Professor Raveh.
So, good afternoon. It is my great pleasure and honor to be here and see in the audience many friends, old friends that I have not seen for a long time, and new friends. First, I wish to thank Professor Ananda and Mishra for putting up this event and inviting stellar scholars. Each of them is a guest of honor as much as I am. Second, I thought that the best thing I can do with my 10 minutes here is to get right to the point and say a few words on a contemporary Advaitin, Ramchandra Gandhi. Advaita is Ahimsa is the title of a short chapter of Ramchandra Gandhi's magnum opus, I Am Thou, first published in 1984. Here, Ramu Bhai suggests that the first instance of violence does not take place when one raises one's hand to hit the other or to destroy their temple. It is rather the gaze that sees the other, you, as different from me, which gives birth to violence. This differentiation, even before any action is taken, is for him the cradle of violence. If one can prioritize the common ground between you and I over the obvious differences between us, or metaphorically, to see the clay substance before seeing the different pots and vessels made of it, I draw on Shankaracharya's illustration in Brahma Sutra Bhashya 2.1.14 that Ramu Bhai takes forward, then violence as the logical implication of a segregating gaze becomes redundant. Still, in Advaita is Ahimsa, an interesting statement by Ramu Bhai caught my eye. He writes that, quote, Gandhiji, his grandfather, was right notwithstanding the limitedness of his translation of Ahimsa as non-violence. Gandhiji was right, but the translation of Ahimsa as non-violence is problematic, Ramu Gandhi suggests. According to Ramu Bhai, Ahimsa as concept and ideal does not signify the opposite of violence or pertain to non-action, that is refraining from a violent action instead of action. It rather stands for an existential position derived from a deep contemplation on violence as integral human tendency, a position that goes beyond violence and non-violence, a position that is no longer the opposite of anything, but indicates that one has perceived that, that clayish, quote unquote clayish, common denominator preceding the I-U partition. Ramu Bhai further elucidates his position in a chapter titled Is Ahimsa Non-Violence? Again from I Am Thou. Here he suggests that Ahimsa cannot be non-violence, since non-violence has always necessarily exceptions, such as in cases of self-defense, whereas for Gandhiji, Ahimsa is an ultimate, exceptionless value. Here I wish to add two interlocutors to my short dialogue with Ramu Bhai, Patanjali of the Yoga Sutra and Martin Buber. For Patanjali, just like for the Mahatma, Ahimsa is a Mahavrat, or great vow, as he puts it, in Yoga Sutra 231. As such, it has to be observed and practiced irrespective of birth, place, time, circumstances, or even a sense of duty, such as animal sacrifice by a Brahmin or fighting a war for a Kshatriya, Vyasa explains in his Bhashya. No exceptions then for Patanjali. Buber, an Israeli philosopher, is relevant to our discussion owing to a letter that he wrote to the Mahatma dated February 24th, 1939. Buber's letter is a reply to an article by Gandhi published in the Harijan in November 26, 1938, in which he offers his views on the Jews in Europe under the Nazi regime and their dream for a national home in Israel. In a nutshell, Gandhi's article and Buber's letter are openly available on the internet, Gandhi recommends that the Jews adopt the ahinsaic satyagraha approach that worked for him in South Africa. Buber, in response, challenges the universality of ahimsa. I think that the most interesting feature of the letter, that it is a philosophical letter. He takes issue with Gandhi and challenges the universality of ahimsa or ahimsa in Sanskrit. He agrees with Gandhi that ahimsa is a desirable approach, effective in 99% of the cases. But the Nazis, he proclaims, fall under the last percent. Do you know or do you not know, Mahatma? Buber writes passionately, what a concentration camp is like and what goes on there? Do you know of the torments in the concentration camp, of its methods of slow and quick slaughter? I do not presume that you know. In this case, Buber implies ahimsa will not work, and the measure of adharma, the articulation is mine, is needed to protect and restore dharma. Gandhi never replied to Buber or to another Israeli philosopher, Judah Leib Magnus, who also wrote to him around the same time, challenging again the universality of ahimsa with a different argument, which I cannot present here, but Magnus's letter too is easily accessible on the internet. Shimon Lev, author of Soulmates, the story of Mahatma Gandhi and Herman Kallenbach from 2012, tells me that the letters must have reached Sabarmati Ashram, but for some reason were not read by Gandhi, who, when asked about them by Louis Fisher, his famous biographer, could not remember these letters at all. However, Buber does receive a reply, a belated reply from Ramubhai in place of his illustrious grandfather. Instead, or in place of his illustrious grandfather. It is not just the title of his book, I Am Thou, that corresponds with Buber's famous book, I and Thou, first published in 1923. In a nutshell, again, if Buber speaks of transforming the position of the other from the third person to the second person, namely from it, consisting of he and she, to thou or you, then Ramubhai suggests taking one more step toward the Advaitic formulation, I am thou. Buber was not unaware of the Upanishadic notion of an all-encompassing Atman that echoes in Ramubhai. So immense was his interest in Indian philosophy that in part 3 of I and Thou, Buber offers a short narration of the famous Chandogya Upanishad story about Indra, Virochana, and Prajapati. But he rejects the Upanishadic standpoint, which advocates absorption, as he puts it, and instead declares that, I'm quoting Buber, the reality of the everyday hour on earth with a streak of sun on a maple twig and the glimpse of the eternal thou is greater for us, unquote. Buber prefers the maple twig and you, a real you, over a tentative you that is finally immersed and lost in me, and vice versa, me that is immersed in you, with you. But I wish to return to Ramubhai's reply to Buber on the universality of ahimsa in the chapter Is Ahimsa Non-Violence? Making an interesting move, Ramubhai suggests that the practitioner of ahimsa aims to become non-injurious primarily toward oneself, or toward his soul, as he puts it. This soul, he continues, strives, quote, for God or freedom. Any conduct, I quote again, any conduct of, I quote again, unjustified violence or unjustified non-violence. This is an interesting formulation. Unjustified violence or unjustified non-violence, Ramubhai further suggests, distances my soul from this aspired for freedom. His move sits well with Patanjali, who writes in Yoga Sutra 233-34 that in order to stop contrary thoughts, namely thoughts that divert the practitioner of yoga from the yamas, the ethical precepts prescribed for him, and primarily ahimsa, one has to reflect on their consequences, which are endless suffering and ignorance. Ramubhai implies that unjustified violence and unjustified non-violence are equally self-injurious or soul-injurious. Or soul-injurious. Where am I? I'm here. Thus contributing to unfreedom. He explains what unjustified non-violence means through the Bhagavad Gita. The Mahatma famously argued that the Gita is a manifesto of ahimsa, even though Krishna, as you all know, pleads Arjuna to fight in the great Mahabharata war. Ramubhai explains, interpreting the Mahatma and elucidating the meaning of ahimsa as he sees it, that the violent battle is also ahimsa, because to let the Kauravas, I'm quoting him, because to let the Kauravas, Nazis of antiquity, get away with their plans on earth of earth domination would be to injure not only those who would be subjugated or killed by them, it would also amount to injury to the Kauravas themselves, unquote. This is an astonishing statement by Ramubhai. First, the phrase Nazis of antiquity implies that he has read Buber's letter to the Mahatma and agrees with Buber that non-violence is not the right approach toward the Nazis, as it falls under the category of unjustified non-violence. On the other hand, an action against the Nazis involving a measure of violence falls under the category of ahimsa. Not acting against them, he implies, would be harmful both to those who suffer under their brutal rule and to them, since if they continue to pursue brutality, they will move away from God or freedom. Ramubhai, as they read him, justifies a violent action against the violent Nazis for the sake of victim and oppressor alike. Ahimsa, as presented by him, is a matter of a broad vista that takes into account every party involved in the situation. Ramubhai further explains that, quote, ahimsa is like the Divine Mother, with both a benign and a terrifying face, Lakshmi and Kali. It means that there is something protective about ahimsa as attitude and way of living. Whatever justified action it gives rise to, violent, Kali, or benevolent, Lakshmi. But who will decide what is justified? In the Gita, God Krishna is portrayed as the ultimate deciding authority. But who can decide what is justified or unjustified in real life? Who can decide what is good or what is bad? And what needs to be done? Ramubhai assumes that deep down one knows the answer, presuming that there is a capital A answer for these ethical questions. Take, for instance, Duryodhana, a second generation of blindness, not sight-wise like his father, but heart-wise, who confesses honestly, I know what dharma is, but I have no inclination for it. I know what adharma is, but I cannot resist it. This popular verse from the Stotra Pandava Gita suggests that the villain knows what the good is, even if he refuses to follow it. Ahimsa is refuge and shield, preceding and transcending both violence and non-violence. The Nazis of antiquity, in correspondence and agreement with Buber, I find these features creative and thought-provoking. But the religious bottom line, assumption in the guise of conclusion that the truth is here, available, or even unescapable for its ardent seeker, is an aspect of Ramubhai that I respect but can hardly accept. A student of Daya Krishna, Ramubhai's contemporary, I feel more comfortable with questions than with answers. When I spoke here, now I'm moving to something else. to close. When I spoke here in this department just a few days ago, I raised the question about newness and philosophy. Is contemporary philosophy, or more specifically post-independence Advaita, as the title of this seminar suggests, just a footnote a la Whitehead to Shankara Acharya? And you all remember I'm addressing the students of the department, the Alu Gobi is Alu Gobi illustration. Or are the thinkers to be discussed here in the next 3 days? I saw in the program K.C. Bhattacharya, Shri Aurobindo, T.M.P. Mahadevan, G.R. Malkani, and others. I did not see, by the way, R. Bal Subramaniam, and I still hope that someone will speak on his work. So perhaps these thinkers are not a footnote, but actually a text in its own right. Do they manage to contribute something new and creative to classical Advaita, to take classical Advaita forward, to add philosophical ingredients, to correspond with other thinking traditions, whether Indian or non-Indian? I'm looking forward to listening to the presentations of the participants to see how each of them, of you, handles the question of newness. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Raveh, for your insightful words. And definitely it was short, but so informative. And now I would take an opportunity to invite Professor Sachidananda Mishra, Member Secretary of ICPR New Delhi, for the presidential and concluding remarks. Professor Mishra.
Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punaha Punaha. Respected Professor P.K. Mukhopadhyay ji, dear Professor Daniel Raveh, the scholars present here from different part of country. This is indeed a matter of great pleasure to be here in this department, the department of Professor T.R.V. Murthy, Professor A.K. Chatterjee, and N.K. Devraj, etc. And in a seminar, the theme of which is the post-independence Advaita thinkers. When the idea was formulated to organize a seminar on this topic, the idea was to pinpoint those thinkers who have contributed in the development of Advaita philosophy after independence. Because we can see that this Advaita philosophy, in a sense, the most ancient philosophy, because the seeds of this philosophy are very much available in the Upanishads. Ekam sadvipra bahudha vadanti, ekam dvitiyam neha nasti kinchana. So there are so many such sentences available, and all the Advaita thinkers formulate their philosophy on the basis of these Vedanta texts. Therefore, we can see that there is a long tradition. And if we talk in modern terminology, more than 2,500 years. If we are talking in modern terminology, where I started, Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. we can see that this philosophy is somehow related to Shankara and also to Shankaracharya. Because Shankara is jnana michet to Shankarat. It is said that when one is willing to achieve knowledge, one should ask, one should pray to Lord Shankara. And there is another Murti of Lord Shankara. That Murti is known as Dakshina Murti. And Dakshina Murti, Bhagavan, is actually a Lord who gives knowledge. He is God of knowledge. And very interestingly, Shankaracharya wrote a text, Dakshinamurti Stotra, in which Vishwam Darpana Drishyamana Nagari Tulyam Nijantargatam Pashyannatmani Maya Bhairivodbhutam Yato Nidraya Yah Sakshat Kurute Prabodh Samay Swatmanamevadvayam Tasmai Shri Gurumurtaye Namaidam Shri Dakshinamurtaye. So in these beginning from this shloka, in this Dakshinamurti Stotra, Acharya Shankara is propounding Advaita philosophy. And there is a commentary available on that by Sureshwaracharya, Manasaullasa. And actually, I find myself fortunate enough to have the opportunity to edit a commentary written on that by Ananta Krishna Shastri, Manasaullasa Vardhini. A rare commentary and a rare manuscript, on the basis of which I edited that. And Ananta Krishna Shastri, as Professor Mukhopadhyay sir highlighted, in 20th century he died in 1964. So he is well versed and he deserves to be counted in this philosophical seminar, and he should be studied, and a paper must have been presented. I wanted to present a paper on him, but some price one has to pay for being an administrator, so I couldn't get time to write a paper on that topic. So he was a well versed scholar, and if you go through the writings of Ananta Krishna Shastri ji, in Ananta Krishna Shastri we can see how this Advaita tradition, which started from such long time, and it is also flourishing in this 20th century. And we can see, we can be very much hopeful that in this 21st century also, such type of scholars surely will evolve, will be born, and they will contribute to the development of this philosophy, which is great philosophy. So in his writings, one or two points I would like to refer, because he wrote Shatabhushani. Professor Mukhopadhyay also highlighted that point, that he wrote Shatabhushani to reject Shatadushani. So many people are aware of Shatadushani, but only a few of us are aware of Shatabhushani. And also he wrote another text, Advaita Tattva Sudha, in two parts, two volumes. Advaita Tattva Sudha, this is a very original text, and he was a very prolific writer. He wrote and edited almost 27 texts, 27 books. So his writings are very important. He was not a writer to get a promotion or to earn an API, but he wrote because he was so much devoted to Advaita philosophy. And he was so much devoted to Advaita philosophy because when he was to die, before a few days, he took sannyas. And after taking sannyas, he died. So he was living this philosophy and following this philosophy, and he was also developing this philosophy. So in the scholars like Ananda Krishna Shastri and others, we can see the development of this Advaita philosophy, how it is started, how, and very beautifully Professor Mukhopadhyay sir highlighted Sachidanandendra Saraswati's contribution, how he contributed, how he challenged the whole tradition, his own tradition. That the commentary written by other scholars, Vivarana school, Bhamati school, and other schools, all are not grasping the essence of Acharya Shankaraj Bhashya. This is another way we can look at the tradition. So when we are talking about this philosophy and this seminar is actually to pinpoint those scholars, to pick up those scholars who have contributed in the development of Advaita philosophy and in the direction of Advaita philosophy. And both points Professor P.K. Mukhopadhyay sir has highlighted. I am very much thankful that he agreed to deliver this keynote address. And as he told in the beginning of his lecture, that he is not well prepared. Without preparation, he has come to deliver this lecture. And so I need, and I think we should have such scholars who could come without preparation and could deliver such beautiful lectures. And if this way we can have such scholars, that will be a wonderful thing. So we have Professor Danial Raveh, and he is an old friend of mine. He is also studying how Indian philosophy is being evolved in 20th century and at present time. So his book is also there. He published. I would like to congratulate him. He is presented very important talk here, and I think that in coming sessions we will be fortunate enough to have very fruitful discussions, very fruitful talks given by uh, many scholars, Professor H.S. Prasad sir, Godavari Mishra ji, R.C. Pradhan ji, and so many more scholars, Professor Amigadata Sharma ji. So there are so many scholars from different part of country, and I think some more will be joining us tomorrow and or day after tomorrow. So in these 3 days, we will be actually uh, measuring out the development, how this Advaita philosophy, which is the oldest philosophy, and also in a sense new also. This is an oldest philosophy, but also it is very pertinent, very intuitive, and also developing in a new way in every philosopher, every scholar. So because when we look at the thinking of T.R.V. Murthy, Professor A.K. Chatterjee, and some other scholars, there is actually influence of Western thinking also, because Western thinkers have also developed. There is also Advaitic thinking. So that Advaita thinking, because you can see in the writings of T.R.V. Murthy, the Kant's reflection, how Kant developed, and as he puts that Kant is yeah, that is also a point. So according to T.R.V. Murthy, Kant is an incomplete project. So Kant's project can be developed in different ways. So in that way also they have tried to develop Advaita philosophy. So when we are talking about Advaita philosophy, in a single sentence, if you say this philosophy believes in oneness. So there is one reality. So this is the essence of this philosophy. And if you try to find out this statement, and in that way, all the Advaita philosophies become identical. So how all Advaita philosophies are different, this is also a challenge. And I think when we look at these thinkers, we can find out those challenges, how these philosophies are different, and what are the grounds on which these philosophies can be seen differently. So I am not taking too much time, because as Professor P.K. Mukhopadhyay sir very rightly pointed out in the beginning of his lecture, that what is the job of yeah, an adhyaksha. So accordingly, I am completing my talk here. Thank you very much giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful concluding remarks. And you are as effective and lucid as always. Always a pleasure to hear you. Now, as we are heading towards the end of the program today, I request Dr. Rahul Kumar Maurya, an assistant professor in the Department of Philosophy and Religion, and also the co-coordinator in the seminar, to kindly present a vote of thanks on behalf of the department. Professor.
Thank you, Dr. Neeti. Well, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all. I'm Dr. Rahul Kumar Maur, Assistant Professor, the Department of Philosophy and Religion, and co-coordinator of this work seminar, as Dr. Neeti already pointed out. It is really a matter of great pleasure to propose vote of thanks for this session to all the dignitaries on the dais and off the dais who have managed to grace the occasion and enlightened us with their insightful thoughts. A hearty thanks to our keynote speaker, Professor P.K. Mukhopadhyay, who has readily accepted our invitation to grace the occasion with his blissful presence and spirited words. He has been so generous to come to this department uh, very often despite his age, and that shows his unconditional commitment to philosophy in general and to the department in particular. He is the living authority of Indian philosophy as well as Western traditions of philosophy. Thank you very much, sir, for sparing time and being with us. Your knowledge is truly invaluable to all of us. I would like to thank our guest of honor, Professor Danial Raveh, who never says no to any academic engagement. He's so kind. I know him since my JNU days and listened to him on various occasions since then. His critical engagement with Indian tradition of philosophy is remarkable and, in the sense, a true contribution to philosophy that he's doing. Thank you very much, sir, for sparing time to speak to us. It has been so pleasing to listen to you on many occasions. I would like to extend my gratitude to the chair of this session, Professor Satyanand Mishra, Member Secretary, ICPR, who has managed to come despite his busy schedule. We know it is your love and affection to this department that you never say no to any of our requests that we made. Your contribution to Indian philosophy in general and Nyaya tradition in particular is well known to all of us. It is truly a pleasure to listen to you, sir. And this seminar, let me tell you, became possible only because ICPR has extended a good financial support, and the credit goes to the member secretary. So please, big round of applause for him. Thank you so much, sir, for being with us. Now it is my duty to thank our head of the department and coordinator of this seminar, Professor Anand Mishra, who has made a tremendous effort to put this event in place. He is the person who really deserves applause for such a magnificent start that we had today in the morning. So thank you very much, sir, for all your efforts that you put in. I must thank all the dignitaries present in the seminar, offline and online, and let me take your names. Professor P.R. Bhatt, Professor Godavari Smith, Professor R.C. Pradhan, Professor H.S. Prasad, Professor A.D. Sharma, Professor A.K. Rai, Professor Sanjay Shukla, Professor Jata Shankar, Professor Rakesh Chandra, Professor Anil Tiwari, Professor Gopal Sahu, Professor Ganesh Das, Professor Bipin Pandey, Dr. Rajesh Chaurasia, Professor Satish Singh, Professor S.P. Pandey, Professor Mukul Raj Mehta, Professor R.K. Jha, Professor Durgesh Chaudhary, Professor Satish Chand Dubey, Professor Jyotsna Srivastav, Dr. Pramod Bagade, Dr. Vivek Pandey, Dr. Jai Singh, Dr. Sarita Rani, Dr. Grace Darling, Dr. Shruti Mishra, Dr. Kalpana, Dr. Priyanka, Dr. R.L. Behera, and Dr. Neeti as well. Last but not the least, let me also extend my gratitude to the fantastic audience without whom we cannot have any academic programs. So once again, thank you all. And yeah, I think Dr. Archana Tripathi is also available, so I would like to thank her as well. Now, we will break for lunch, and lunch will be served upstairs, so please join us for lunch. Thank you.
With the permission of the chair, I announce the end of the program here. You are all now invited for lunch. Thank you, one and all.